start out with approval of the agenda, please.
Support.
We got a motion and a support. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's carried. We've arrived to public comment. Are there any public comment? Public comment. No public comment. We'll move on to committee items, minutes of the November 13, 2019. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're up to parks, Jackson County, Calhoun County Trail feasibility study. Morning, Kyle.
Good morning. So the goal of this study is to look at potential routes to connect the Falling Waters Trail to the Calhoun County line. And the big question of that is where to connect to at the Calhoun County line. So that's what we're hoping to have at the end of the study. Calhoun County is also working on trail across their county, so we need to find a connection point so that we're meeting at the same place, basically. This study will also give us kind of a target to shoot for as far as fundraising and grants that we'll need to go after down the road. So there'll be a lot of coordination with Calhoun County, as well as the village of Concord and Concord Township. The village built a trail extension about 7/10 of a mile from Concord to the west. So we're looking at picking up from there, basically. They built to the village border. The total cost is $37,500 from the Spicer Group, and we have a grant of $35,000 to cover most of that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Doc?
I read your thing, and what is the problem with Homer not wanting to be involved?
You know, I'm not sure. That's something that Calhoun County is working on. I think the village of Homer is very welcoming to the trail. It's the residents outside of the village and the township that are some farms that are not wanting to see the trail come that way. So Calhoun is trying to decide from Albion if they shoot all the way south to Homer, or if they just kind of jog over more towards Concord.
Okay, thank you.
Corey? You had a question?
Not really, because it looks like the grant's going to cover most of it. My only question would be, is why Calhoun County's not covering part of the cost?
Yeah, they're having, I mean, they can't even raise the money to basically build the trail that they've been trying to build for a while. So this is more of a statewide project, I guess. It's funded by the Iron Bell Fund, which this entire trail is part of the Iron Bell Trail. So the state is probably most interested in seeing it happen. And it's if the study wasn't happening, I think this would be something that Calhoun County would be looking at years down the road. So this kind of speeds up their process.
Okay.
Any other questions from, Mr. Tony?
Just for clarification, economics are good on this $37,000 project for $2,500. Are Calhoun County and Village of Concord contributing anything to this?
They'll be contributing time, basically. There'll be some coordination meetings, some stakeholder meetings where they'll be sitting down to go over what's been planned in the past and what they'd like to see as far as routes. But not financially, no.
Relative to paying Spicer, they're not contributing.
Correct.
Okay.
Are any other questions? Jeff, you got something to add, or?
I was just going to add that this study is only in Jackson County. So in most situations, you wouldn't get your next door county to pay for a study that's in Jackson County. Now, what we ultimately determine will basically put one of their arms behind their back. In other words, wherever we go, we're going to set the location, and they pretty much have to follow they won't have a choice at that point. So we are involving them in the discussion, but ordinarily, we wouldn't have them making any final decisions on our part, nor paying for the study that's in Jackson County only. So it's really up to us, this body, to decide and approve the feasibility study, and they'll have to follow suit. And as Kyle said, they haven't, without being too impolite, they haven't been able to get their act together for a long time, and ultimately, we in the state are not willing to wait. So we're going to basically be the trendsetter and set the location. We're glad to include them in the conversation, but at the end of the day, you all are going to get to make the decision about, at least from a feasibility standpoint. We haven't raised any money to build it. This just gets us an understanding of what our options are and what our costs might be.
This is less than we can approve it here at this point. So I need a motion. Support.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Finance, 2019 financial statement.
Oh. 2.
Good morning. I'm here to report on April 2019's financial statements. The benchmark for April is 4/12, so 33.3% of our budget is what we compare to our expenditures, and then also our revenues. So for April, our expenditures are at 33.2% compared to our benchmark of 33.3%, which is right on target. Some things to note on page 2, just for your information, as a reminder, the school liaison program is budgeted for 10 months. That's why it's above the 33.3. And also MSU Extension Center, right now they're showing 46.1%, but that is because their April through June work plan was paid in April. So that's making their expenditures a little bit higher than normal because it wasn't paid on a straight line basis. And the other thing to note regarding our expenditures is also regarding our miscellaneous non-departmental costs. That just includes our insurance premiums, and that's why that's a little bit higher, because we pay them on a more of a quarterly basis. So, is there any questions regarding the expenditures for April? All right. So if we turn the page and look at our revenues, what I've done, I've kind of make notes because I just want to make sure and keep track of how our revenues are coming in, whether it's based on what we're expecting. The jury commission right now, it's showing 0%. I did look in May. We did receive a payment for $26,000 because according to what I was told, we received payments in June and December, so which is good. We're on target at the end of May for jury commission. Prosecuting attorney, which is really good. They're actually at 50.4%. And I looked into, at the end of, they have $20,663,000 more in revenue because of reimbursement for inmate cases. So that's good. The other thing too, when let's see, regarding the jail, I was asking Chris Kuhl about that because we're only at 16.2%. He mentioned that parole violators and deferred felons are billed to the Department of Corrections each month, but they don't pay on a regular basis. It may be 5 or 6 months before we actually receive a payment. But we did receive some telephone fees for like $25,000 in May. So, for our school liaison program, we did receive $130,000 in May for that too. So basically, so if we look at also regarding our taxes, if we pull out our taxes of $22,466,000, those are the ones that are budgeted. We're just right at a negative 3.4% regarding our revenue target. But A lot of that too, again, is because of the delays that we receive in grant revenues from federal and state, and also our quarterly payments. So, is there any questions regarding the revenues? It's just something I'm really monitoring and trying to keep track of, so be able to report on them.
So moved. Aye.
All right. You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is
Yeah, Ruth was under the weather. She couldn't make it today. If there's any questions, we can either try to answer them or we can wait for Ruth to come back and answer them. That's all good too.
well, then we'll move on to Treasurer, quarterly report.
Good morning, everyone. So as I do when I report before you quarterly, I've prepared kind of a summary. So, and then some highlights or bullet points, I guess, for discussion. And of course, if you've got questions, don't don't worry about stopping me and asking questions as we go through this. So, let's get started here. So you'll see this is the normal monthly reports that you have available. They're also posted on the website. Just a quick snapshot of where we are with any type of investments and revenues that are coming in as of the end of April. May month end is not closed yet, so can't report out those figures, but we're steady. Trends are normal as far as what we've got as far as in the portfolio and available or invested out. Now, I will tell you that since May, we also did our settlement, so we did the payout for all of the local units in Texas, so the portfolio next month will be significantly less. We had to write checks in the amount of just $11 million or so. But we've got the money there. You can see here's our cash. That money sits there so that every May we can make payment on those taxes. So really no surprises with regard to that unless there's questions. I will move on to the next portion. Yes, Commissioner Tompkins? To taxes. Sorry about that. No checks to taxes, and that's to pay off all of the delinquent properties that come to us every March 1st. Okay? All right, so I will forward on to the foreclosure update. I presented to you in March, and it was before the foreclosure deadline, so I can now report out what our number was for this year. We foreclosed on 144 parcels. This map can be helpful for you if you are curious as to your jurisdictions, how many foreclosures were in the respective townships in the city. So I've included that in case you have questions or want to speak to that. You'll notice, and I'll talk about this, that our high number was Columbia Township, and we had 40 vacant parcels in Lighthouse Village, the Brooklyn Village of Brooklyn, that we foreclosed on. So that is inflating that number significantly. I believe it was a condo site that never was developed, so the 40 vacant parcels definitely inflates that number. I do want to take a minute and talk about this graph here, the foreclosure history. This is a graph that I have been using now. When I go to speak to people, if they've got questions about the status of foreclosures, especially in Jackson County, you can see on this chart that we had our high point in 2012. That was when we were right smack dab in the middle of the economic downturn. So our highest number of foreclosures at that time was 294 parcels. I'm glad to say that we see a decline there since 2012, and obviously with the new numbers posted for this March, we're at 144. Again, I think it's important to note that we have 40 vacant parcels, so that's kind of inflating that number. If we didn't have that condo site that we foreclosed on, we would be well under the 137 parcels from last year. So regardless, if there's no questions, I did want to take a minute and talk about this graph that I spent some time digging a little further into details on what those total foreclosure numbers look like. Hopefully this graph makes sense to you, but we can walk our way through it. So of the total of 144 parcels, 61 parcels, and it's kind of the third column over here under county total, 61 parcels have what we call improved or have a structure, a house, a garage, one commercial property. So of the 144, 61 have some type of structure on it, and then 83 parcels are vacant. To break it down further, 55 total parcels in the city of Jackson, and the remaining 89 parcels of the 144 are in the townships and villages. We did have Blackman Township purchased under their first right of refusal, one parcel. They are the only one that had expressed interest this time around. We will be bundling all of the properties in the city of Jackson again at this tax foreclosure auction, which will be held Wednesday, August 28th at the Commonwealth Commerce Center. We have done this bundling of properties, city properties, for the past 4 years now, and the city will receive a chargeback invoice in the amount of the taxes due for those parcels. So, yes.
Hey, Mr. Chair. Do we have any really dirty properties this time, like what we've had in the past?
Nothing significant like we had with the Michener properties. So thankfully, yes, thankfully that's a good thing. But we never know. I'm trying to think of our commercial.
Did you get the East Michigan Avenue situation taken care of?
Well, it's an ongoing issue. We have been in conversations with the tenants that are staying on the property, not in the property. They had some campers there, and we've been working with Blackman Township police officers and letting them know what's going on, and they're keeping us in the loop as well. We haven't had any issues recently, so right now we are going through the process where we've given any tenants of these foreclosed properties notice that they've got to file an answer, and we're going through the district court landlord-tenant eviction process right now. Was surprised to see that no one filed paperwork for an answer to request a hearing on that property. Thought maybe they'd want to come and say we need more time or we have an issue, but they did not. So we will see. Come auction time, August, there's quite some time yet that we've got to wait and monitor that property. So thankfully, we haven't had any recent issues with that property.
I know that one of the neighbors has worked very, very hard to clean up his property
Yes.
and straighten out the building and everything like that, and would really like to see this resolved.
Agreed. Agreed. It'll be interesting to see if we have any potential buyers at the auction. Was hoping that Blackman Township would take that under their first right, but they did not, so. So I did mention that we are going through the district court eviction process. That is standard protocol, that any occupied properties after we foreclose, we go out and make contact with the properties, let them know that it's been foreclosed on by the county, it's now owned by the county, but that they have the ability, it's a 30-day notice, and then if they're still not out of the property when we go back and visit, which is usually the middle part of May, then we start the eviction process. So right now, we've got 5 eviction hearings that are scheduled for 2 this Thursday and 3 next week. So we're right in the middle of that process. Some other numbers with regard to this last chart that I just wanted to highlight. Total improved parcels for this foreclosure cycle was 61. That's the lowest number since 2012. Total improved parcels in the city only for this foreclosure cycle is the lowest number since 2012, standing at 34. And of that 34 improved parcels in the city, we believe that less than 12 of these properties have people or renters living in them. So I want to make this crystal clear that from all indicators, all numbers, it appears that our foreclosure problem is not really as bad as it was in the past. There's some concern that we're back in a crisis situation. I don't see that. And we still are working with those, trying to prevent foreclosure from happening. That will always be ongoing, but I just want to make sure that you know that our numbers are down. They've been going down, and they're the lowest that we've seen since 2012. And I mentioned the 40 vacant lots in Columbia Township's kind of inflating that number. So if you're curious, the total dollar amount that we need to recoup at the auction August 28th is just over $596,000, so that's going to be our target to try to get to that total so that we can break even for those dollars that we've paid out to the local taxing jurisdictions. I see we have a question. The date? Okay, Wednesday, August 28th. Registration begins at noon, and it's at the Commonwealth Commerce Center, and it's been there the past 3 years. Thank you so much. Sure, you're welcome. And really, that's all that I have, unless there's other specific questions that I can answer.
Corey, did you have a question? Okay. Yes.
Karen, for the benefit of the commissioners, the state can take any property they want,
Correct?
and
Yes.
then the local jurisdictions, townships, can take property for public,
Purpose, correct?
and then the county can take any property as we see fit too.
That's correct. The statute does not speak to public purpose on behalf of the county's first right of refusal.
And see, the unique part there is, because, sometimes we'll say, well, the township wants to take a property. Well, unless they have a public purpose for that property, they can't. They can't just take it and speculate on it.
Correct.
Not that the county takes property for speculation, but we can have other reasons than a public purpose to take the property and hold it.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Mike? Yes, sir. So,
Well, no, they got to have a public purpose. What are they going to do with it that's in the benefit of the public? Yeah, they can't do that. They were going to say it was a house on a piece of property they want to turn into a township park because it's right on a lake. Yeah, they could.
In fact, Blackman Township, the parcel that they did take, it's part of their trail system that they're looking at improving. So this property in Blackman Township is significantly blighted. A lot of garbage, tires, old campers. In the back part of the property, it's a mess. So we're very thankful that Blackman's taking the initiative to take that property, clean it up, and then look to add to the public purpose, which is to build their trails in that area. Any other questions?
Karen wants to clean it up, then we let her,
No, sir. No, thank you.
let her take it.
Any other questions? I need a motion to approve the treasurer's quarterly report.
Go ahead.
Motion's made and supported. All in favor signify by aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you very much.
We move down to the clerk's semi-annual report. Okay, I understand the clerk's not going to be here today. She's got another engagement. If we have any questions,
Did she want us to move it to next month? It's your semi-annual, so we can just move it next month.
Okay, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Where she said they could contact her with questions.
Want to deny the clerk the opportunity to come and speak, you know?
Well, appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, with that being said, we'll move to the Administrator Controller's Policy 3015, Workplace Diversity.
I believe Deborah's going to speak to this.
Good morning. This policy was last reviewed in 2011 as part of our ongoing process of reviewing our policies. This one came up, and you have attached with it a red line version of the changes that were made. It was very brief, a very brief policy. We felt that there needed to be some expansion on the information that was in this policy. So you have your red line version to see the changes that were made.
Are there any questions? Go ahead, Daniel.
Yes, it would go to the full board.
Motion's been made and seconded to move it to the full board. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next one, Administration Controller, 2025 Jackson County Strategic Plan.
That'd be me. Thank you. In front of you, you have, I believe it's an 8-page document here. It is the broad overview of the strategic plan that Ms. Novak sent us, the Novak Group. And what we're looking for here, ultimately we'll take it to the full board, is the board to approve the mission, vision, values, the key performance areas, and of course, remember at our last meeting, we kind of narrowed it down to 4 focus areas, initiatives to advance. What the expectation is, once the board approves that, then we'll start working internally, create some committees to do some brainstorming to figure out what it is we can do that and how that might affect our budget as far as reallocation of resources, things like that, to move the needle forward as laid out by the county commissioners in the strategic plan. Questions? Thank you. A few, I don't know if it was 6 weeks ago or something like that, I sent everyone their maps for the properties that has been foreclosed on. I myself reviewed them all last week, looking through just to see if there was anything I thought that would be in the county's best interests. And I had not heard from anyone as to any particular properties. And as Karen indicated, there wasn't a whole lot of properties, so it's improving for sure in my mind. But did anyone have anything? And if you need me to send the maps again, I can. And the maps, they'll show on there, the property in red that has been foreclosed on. The GIS department did those for us.
Keep in large.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I just instructed you.
Sure we can. In fact, if you would be so kind, just send it out again. Yeah.
Yes.